Welcome to your last lesson for hospitality environment. Um, this is the last contemporary issue we're going to talk about, and it's the future of the internet in the hospitality industry, but also the importance, obviously, of technology in hospitality. Um, Now, after this lesson, you will be able to evaluate the size of the internet and the use of it within the hospitality industry. Analyze the difference between internet, intranet, and extranet. Discuss the future growth of the internet for the hospitality over the next 10 years, which is going to be your workshop or homework. And also, you consider other technologies that will have revolutionized the industry. Now, I think we all know that computerization has changed the industry quite a bit over the past, 20, 30 years. If you think back, if you think to the 90s, no one really used the internet until probably the start of the late 90s. And also, if you think about it nowadays, how quickly computers are actually out of date. So again, you think back to the 80s. Yes, we did have low-cost personal computers. Um, but if you just think, A, not everyone had a computer. B, they were, if you think back to your Ataris, Spectrum, and C64s, there were nothing really to shout about. And I think even in the 90s, early 90s, computers were still, had a very slow, a small memory, and obviously not really the internet either. And I just say floppy disks, which obviously we don't use anymore nowadays. So, well, the reason the technology or computerization in the hospitality has changed hugely over the last 20 years, the low-cost personal computer since the 1980s, and has led to the explosion in the use of technology. So if you think back to your C64s, Atari and Spectrum, and you think now to your MacBook, notebooks, iPhones, iPads, Android pads, other smartphones, and what else is out there, we live in a computerized, very quickly changing world in which we want more and need more, and thus the industry obviously has adapted to that as well. Now, where does the internet come from? It was used during the Cold War by the US, and it was a network that was designed by them and to basically be a backup for messages and information to still come through even if communication networks were destroyed. Now, if you think about it, just for a few minutes, what do you think, if you had to describe the internet, what it looked like, what words would you use? Just think about it. I did this last year with my tourism students, and things like spaghetti-like came to light. So students said, it's like Spaghetti Junction. It's invisible. If you think about, I think it's in BT advert, where they promise broadband to everyone, and there are those lights going through the dark. So that's basically what the internet would look like. Now, you know that the internet is constantly growing and is difficult to quantify. So, how many people use the internet, how fast is the internet, there are so many websites out there, pages out there. The number of hosts or computers connected to the network have doubled only between 2000 and 2002. So if you think about, we're 11 years on now. You talk about the beginning of the internet, and now everyone has almost everyone has internet. I mean, I think if someone tells you I don't have the internet, you just look at them and think, what's wrong with you? Uh, in 2002, nearly 580 million people were online, and half of the internet users are based in the US. When I lived in the States, I lived in the States 97, 98, never used the internet before. My host dad, the family I lived with, they got the internet, my first contact with the internet, and it was all through a modem. It's great. I spent I brought their phone bill up because I spent nights on the internet chatting to my friends, which obviously they weren't very pleased about. If you think about nowadays, you've got broadband, you've got flat rates, so that wouldn't really happen anymore. So when I then came back to Germany to study at home, not a lot of people actually had the internet in '98 when I came back. And then again, it then changed because when I was studying, we didn't really have great computer facilities at the school. And I had my internet at home. Quite slow because there was a modem again, and quite expensive, but I needed it. And then I think when I then went to university over here, it started to change very quickly. And the UK has always been quite at the forefront of technological changes. So I think even nowadays, changes over here and costs of the internet are much better than it is in Germany, for example. The average age, mid-30s, 2/3 of users are male, which is quite funny because it is quite interesting how ignorant people can be when it comes to the internet and technology as well. And internet users tend to be well educated, high disposable income, maybe not necessarily anymore nowadays, and because, as I said, nowadays most people have the internet. If you just look at the changes, 587 million and 1.2 billion people in 2007. So it went from 9% of the world population to 18% of the world population now have the internet. Even more so, more nowadays. But we know that the technology is still in development. There aren't any truly integrated hotel systems and internet-based reservation systems. They are the way forward. And they have started to, do a lot of that in the travel and tourism as well. They've started to do a lot of hybrid things in the hospitality industry as well. So if you just think of Opodo and all those internet booking sites. Problems? Of course there are problems. There's a vast amount of information out there. So what's the right site, what's the correct page to go to. It's unstructured with no single entry point, so you can come from, it's very hard to monitor where you can find your information. You can go via Google, Bing, you can have a lot of different sub-sites that actually then link into the site you're looking for. Speed? Yeah. It is true that in hospitality, speed is a key indicator in determining service quality. Now, the problem is if your internet is not very fast, your websites don't load very quickly. If you look for a website and it doesn't load, you don't go on it. We are not as patient anymore as we used to be. So if I have to wait 5 minutes for a website to load, I'm not going to do that. I know people who actually they're so impatient that actually your computer should read your brainwaves so that it actually knows what page to go on to before you've actually put the website address in. So it's the speed that obviously, if a website takes ages to load because of, I don't know, images being too big or it being too fancy, people not choose something else. Security, a lot to do with credit cards and personal information. How credible is the information? Can you actually trust what's being said on the website? And this is why TripAdvisor and pages like that are great. They are great, and on Booking.com I always go through these. Obviously, I have to have a look that if they're only great reviews, that something is wrong, because there should always be mixed reviews. But and the other thing is the website up to date? That's the other thing. If it was last updated in 2002 and you're now in 2011, obviously the information is out of date as well. Taxation of online sales, and society is divided by access to the information as well. Now you've got three different things. You've got the internet, intranet, and extranet. Okay, so if we just look at them, the internet is public, so everyone can use it. You've got your broadband. That's where the server location is in your house with a permanent internet connection. Information content loads. Yeah, anything you can find, and a lot of it is not useful for you either. And security is not really existent, because there's no one who really monitors you. I mean, yes, you've got your virus programs, but that's about it. But anything you put in, a lot of this might not necessarily be secure. Intranet, it's available to anyone on a company. So if your company has an intranet, we've got intranet at a college. Where you work, you should have an intranet as well, and it's through a network. And it's obviously only certain users are allowed to use it. It's an in-house on the company. It's specialized in propriety, so there's certain information you're allowed to go into, certain information you can't find on there. So you've got your HR information, you've got your student information for the college, and then obviously the security is medium, because you obviously have sensitive data in there, like enrollment figures and stuff, other information about your employees. And then the extranet is available to internal users and selected third parties. So if you are if you have a few travel agencies, then different locations, you can all use the extranet. It's in-house but with external connections, and then it's for e-commerce. So if you're an online travel agency and your people work in different areas, in different towns, there's certain information they all can access. And obviously there's a high security, so that people don't just go on the site and use it. So if you look at the information hospitality intranets, is distance learning, HR functions, employee list, company information, and this is just an example of the old college intranet. So it even says staff intranet, so it tells you what the college, what we used to have access to as well. Obviously, or what we have access to. Obviously, we have no Moodle, not Blackboard, but this is our intranet side of the college. Electronic distribution in hotels, that's how it started. So room types, descriptions, price categories, but it didn't do it didn't show limited numbers of rates, inadequate descriptions, and lack of special offers. Now you have pages like Last Minute and eBookers, hotel center reservation offices, computerized reservation systems, and then you've got all those websites now where you can obviously book, and you see all the offers, you see how many rooms are available. On Booking.com you actually see how many people are viewing the website at the moment as well. Now, what I want you to look at is how the growth of the internet has affected the industry over the past 10 years. What new technology is being used to support the growth of the internet, and what is the future in the next 10 years, and what other technologies will be introduced. Again, use the wiki. Don't forget to use references. Again, exam. Important for the exam. I just want to remind you of that as well. You should now be able to evaluate the size of the internet and the use of it within the hospitality industry. You should know what the difference is between internet, intranet, and extranet, and discuss the future growth of the internet, and also consider the technologies that will revolutionize the industry. Now that is it for this module. You've got your exam in November, so I will set that up and then sort this out. Tutorial as normal, and any questions please just ask them as well.